Welcome to the Color of Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie J. Wong. Alan Z is Atlanta's own triple threat, rapper, singer, and actor. He is the epitome of resilience, and his genre-bending musical styles allows him to be a lover and a fighter. While he does make R&B pop songs cater to women, he is also known for his hard-hitting rap lyrics and inspirational anthems to inspire the champion within his listeners. He also believes in speaking up for Asian Americans and fighting against anti-Asian racism. Career highlights include music featured on Wu Assassins on Netflix, iZombie on the CW, Fox Sports 1, and more. He's worked with artists like Shanice Wilson, King Los, and Full Force. He's performed shows with Nada, Trudy, Johnny Blaze, and countless other acts. His single with Jason Chu, Dojo, has over 290,000 streams on Spotify. Alan Z is in the building. Boom, boom, boom. I always wanted to do that. RM always does that in BTS. So for those people who don't know your journey, can you walk us through your journey to becoming an artist?
Yeah. So I started being interested in music like super young when I was in elementary school. So I started rapping in middle school and singing in high school. And it's just been like a lifelong journey for me. And then I think as I got older, it became like from just music to more so just overall entertainment, because I act and model as well. So it just became like Alan Z just became like the face of everything I want to do, which is all things creative.
Mm-hmm. So how are you continuing to pursue the different avenues? I mean, it's opened up a lot of doors for other Asian Americans, but your path hasn't always been easy.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because I feel like when I was younger, it always felt like I was just like wrong place, wrong time. You know what I mean? Like I moved around so much when I was a kid, and the place where I went to middle school and high school was like this suburb of Seattle. So it was like super white, very like homogenous. Like people, the way they thought was very much just in sync with each other. So that if you thought differently, you get outcasted like I did. So I felt like there was like no outlet for me to pursue what I wanted to pursue, especially like wanted to do hip hop. It was like unthinkable. So I had to like move to Atlanta. I went to Emory, so I got into like college in Atlanta. So that was like my way into like leaving where I was at. And then I just started pursuing it like seriously over there. And then like you said, it hasn't always been easy, even with that jump, because it's like, because hip hop is a predominantly Black like art form, it was like the Eminem effect every time. You know, I get doubted, I prove you wrong, but then it's like I go to a different spot where no one knows me. I do the same thing. And it's like I have to get used to the idea that like, no matter how good I am or how qualified I am, if someone doesn't know me based off of just like skin complexion and how I look, I'm going to get judged off rip. And then the industry experiences I've experienced have been, you know, just not good most of the time, because there's like older heads that have never worked with an Asian artist, or if they have, it's like someone from like the Asian market, like overseas. So they don't know how to process an Asian American.
Right.
And so I think with all these different like trials, it only like strengthened my resolve and resilience. You know, like I was like, my mindset has always been like, if you're not going to help me, I'm going to do it myself, and I'm going to do it 10 times better. And so with that, every time I cut off someone who didn't help, I gain more people that are actually like beneficial to me.
So going back to how have you determined who's helpful in the industry? Because I'm sure you have to weed out quite a few people that are trying to just do whatever, basically.
I think my BS radar is getting pretty good. I've fired more people than I've hired, you know. And I think one thing for me is like I'm getting better at reading energy and like seeing red flags before you know I get to that level where it gets awkward and I have to have that it's not you, it's me conversation.
To break up with them, basically.
Yeah, it's super awkward. But I think it's like I have to kind of see how they perceive me. So like, and how they're going to like interact in a room where like someone may say something to me and I feel some type of way and they don't check them. And I'm like, yo, you're supposed to be my blah, blah, blah. You're supposed to be my manager, but why didn't you say nothing? And they're like, oh, I didn't think it was a big deal. Like something small like that to me will be like, okay, I kind of see what this person's character is. And there'll be a lot of times where like, let's say like a producer or manager that wanted to work with me, they'll have my back to my face and be like, oh yeah, I love this song, blah, blah, blah. And then someone comes along and just like rips me to shreds because I'm Asian and you think I'm fair game. And then they're like, well, yeah, maybe you should just change it. And I'm like, literally yesterday, you just said this was great. And they're like, well, I don't know, maybe his opinion. And it's like, that wishy-washiness is what makes me go, this person's not a solid person. You know what I mean? Because if I have your back and someone says something about you, whether it's critique or whatever, I'm going to have your back regardless because I'm not going to go back on my word. You know what I mean?
So you're talking about loyal people, being genuine, and not having backstabbing. And I think those are good rules of thumbs, even if you're not in the music industry. Mm-hmm. So tell me, because that's an interesting thing, how do you fire someone?
This is there's like so many stories I have for you because I think the most recent firing is one that I'm most proud of because we're not at odds, if that, well, I hope we're not, but we didn't have a falling out because I manned up and I called him and I was like, look, I just feel like I'm going a different direction. Thank you for everything you've done, but I feel like I need to take this on myself. Without taking any of the blame on him or the team. I just said, I need to move. And I think that's like the best way I handled it. The worst way I handled it was
I want to hear this one.
The worst way was I ignored this person like forever, and then they like got hella mad and they like threatened me over like voicemail and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, I got like, so that was like maybe 4 years ago, but yeah, and this wasn't even someone who like I officially signed on to like work with me. It was just someone who was like prospective. But I again, it was a terrible judgment of character on it, just because he knew somebody who knew somebody, and like I was young, you know what I mean? But that was the worst because I should have head on said, you're a terrible person. Like I don't like when you interact with me. I don't like how you say certain things. Instead of me doing that, I was like, you know what? It's gonna blow over. It's all good. I'll just ghost them. Terrible idea. Don't ever ghost someone in business. Just tell them straight on and then move on.
Yeah. I mean, avoidance is never a good thing. I tell a lot of my patients, like, it may seem like a short-term fix, but in the long term, it's going to come back, and maybe it'll come back with more force than that, with the conflict or with anxiety or whatever. Mm-hmm. So
I think words left unsaid can fester and it can turn into something ugly, right? They can, in their head, like, oh, this person, he's doing this. It's a growing like resentment towards you. And I think for you to nip that in the bud is the healthiest thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, how else do you take care of yourself? Because I imagine you have to have a lot of resilience and grit in this industry. And like you said, thick skin. So how do you keep up your stamina to continue to pursue your dream?
Well, I think this year has been like a very like breakthrough year in terms of my like mental maturity and like emotional stability. I think mainly because I think like online, I've seen so much trauma in terms of like, what Asian Americans are going through right now, like the hate crimes, like even just the casual racism from non-Asian people, like seeing that so much from like February to April, it made me just like numb to it in a sense where like I'm offended, but I'm not going to let you get like, like make me like break down. I'm going to be like, I'm going to handle this. I'm going to check it at the door if it comes to me, but I'm not going to let your ignorance ruin my day. And I think it's one of those things where like you said, like when you start growing that kind of like resilience and thick skin, it helps you remember that like the target is here and not like to the sides. Always look at where you're going instead of like who else is like, beside you and what they may be doing to detract you. So I think it's having that mentality of like, resilience and just determination. And I think for me, like it took a long time for me to get to that because I would get distracted very easily before because it'll be like someone could say something. I'm like, why would he say something like that? And I'm like, and the entire day I'm just like, fuck this guy. And like, I'm just so, but now I'm just like, I'm like, fuck this guy. And I'll just go do something else. It's a different type of, I think, mindset I have now.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is focusing on on your goal and not letting things detract you from that goal, even if they're pretty intense with I would call it a sociocultural pandemic as well as the, medical pandemic right now. And I love that you stand for social justice, you rap about it, you did Asian American history. having the educational piece built in. I have that analogy to like Hamilton, where it's like you're giving the history, but it's like entertaining and you're not like in a history class falling asleep. So like I really appreciate those raps. But tell me a little bit more about how your songs have evolved over time.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think when I first like officially made music, it was like maybe like the 2010s, right? Like that, like I guess the last decade or whatever. And like I think I was just trying to do like the whole punchline thing and just like what Drake and all them were doing. I didn't really find my voice. Singing wise, I definitely was like a huge fan of like Trey Songz and Chris Brown. So I was really trying to make music like them. And I think for a long time, like I was shying away from my rap side because the rap to me brought me so much childhood trauma, because that was the reason why I was getting bullied and ostracized in school. So I was like, I'm trying to hide away from it. And so I was trying to sing more because it's like, oh, girls like it. I get girls this way. You know? So like
main goal when you're young, I guess.
It really was. People were like, why'd you sing? And I was like, just to get girls. It was very self-defeating. Yeah. But I think as I got older and I started getting more responsibility, like when I started building a platform, and then like I started like really telling my story, and then like voicing like, I guess, issues from our community, people like started connecting with me more. And even when I started talking about like my relationship problems, like girls will be like, oh, I relate to the song. So it's like, instead of me putting on this like this front, like everything's okay, I'm the man, I'm doing this, which you know, obviously like you should always feel like that. But I think when you start really touching into the most vulnerable sides of you, people start connecting with you more. So now I think now it's like there's like three sides to me, right? There's like the lover Alan, like the R&B pop side. There's fighter Alan, that's like the battle rap, aggressive, competitive side. And then now there's like this like militant side, which is born out of this COVID thing. Because now I'm just like, I'm really gonna fight for my people. I don't care. I don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks. Because if I lose you as a fan because you're offended that I'm talking for my people, then fuck you. That's the mindset I've developed. And ironically, it's gained me more fans than ever.
I was like, I like it.
Because I think it's like now I'm just so unapologetically me. And I think people can see that. You know, I think when you don't put up that guard, it lets more people in. So yeah, I think that's like the evolution of Alan Z so far.
Well, there's like mental and physical things that I worry about getting older. I will say I agree with you. As people progress, hopefully, and get older, they become more confident as to who they are. And I think that's really helped me as well, just like put myself out there and help as many people as possible. And I think you're doing that in your way through music for sure.
Thank you.
So one of the songs I really love that you put out is Watch Your Mouth. It has like a very Eminem vibe to it. Where do you get your inspiration from? Because there's obviously so much going on. Like, how do you narrow it down to like maybe a cohesive message across songs or in a specific song?
Well, I think with themes, that comes easy to me because I come from like a writer background. Like before I rapped, like I would write like stories and poems when I was like in elementary school. So this idea of centric themes and like plot, it's like ingrained in me. So before I write any verses or anything, I have to have the theme. I'm like, what, like I'm like, what are we talking about? You know, and like once I get a hook and I have like okay, this is going to be the theme throughout the song. Like that's what I let dictate like the rest of the writing. Sometimes, like for example, Watch Your Mouth was not a personal song. That was actually a song I did strictly just for TV placement, which is why it got on Wu Assassins. It was strictly just like, okay, they need a song like a fighter song. Like, all right, I'll just write something about that. So there's certain times where I'm just like, the purpose of that is to get money, so
I can do what I want to do.
Yeah. But then it's like there's certain songs where it's like, oh, you can totally tell this is like something I went through or something that like a message I want to get across, you know? So I think it varies upon context.
Makes sense. So what artists do you resonate with at this point? Because you mentioned, Drake, we said Eminem. I mean, there's a whole bunch of new artists out today. Not to say you're trying to emulate them, but who inspires you?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I feel like this era of music, like there are artists I like, but my inspiration still comes from like when I was a kid, you know, or like when I was like in my early 20s. You know, obviously Eminem, like Michael Jackson, like Nas, Jay-Z, Tupac, Rakim, Chino XL, Razkaz, like super lyrical artists. I'm like obsessed with lyrics. So Pharoah Monch, people like that. And then on the singing side, like I mentioned, like Trey Songz, Chris Brown, The Weeknd, like, and even some like Korean, like obviously I like BTS too. I think BTS they're super dope. So I think for me, like artists that know how to create records, like big records, and also like know to have like a crazy pen game. Those are people that inspire me. And nowadays, like with like this new era, there's like a few artists like I like. Like I like Denzel Curry. I think he's super dope.
I gotta check him out.
Big Crit, he's good. So there's still a lot of like good music. I think for me, but what gives me goosebumps is still the music I listened to as a kid, which I think is just a psychological thing. It's just like the deep connection I had was when I was in my hormonal stages, you know?
Well, I think too, what you're speaking to is that vulnerability again. Like, how can you connect a message to a whole bunch of people? But how do you feel like you could fill the gap in terms of what you want to see out there? Because I definitely want to spread your story and your hopes in the universe, you know, for where you want to go.
I think honestly, for me, it's like my transparency and my abilities. Like, because I fully believe to be Asian in like a predominantly Black industry in a white man's world, you have to be super fucking good. And I know I'm super fucking good. That's not being cocky. That's me being confident enough to know my actual abilities as a lyricist, as an MC, as an artist. So on the side of like quality control, I know I have that. And I also know for me, like, I'm not afraid to say a lot of shit. You know, like I'm not gonna like sugarcoat certain feelings I may have. And I think whenever I have those kind of emotions and I put it out in the universe, like it always resonates back. Like people are like, oh, I was waiting for someone to say that. And I think, you know, I feel that certain void because not all of us have that courage to want to say something, right? And I think I like to be able to speak up for people that can't or feel like their voice isn't powerful enough.
Someone has to say it. And I think it's kind of one of those things where everyone's thinking it, but no one is willing to say it. But, you know, holding that bag a lot does have, again, takes resilience and grit. What have you experienced, though, when you do stand up and say that? What are people's reactions to it?
Well, I mean, backlash is always going to be a thing, and I feel like, especially because like I've gone viral so many times, and I see certain comments, and I'm like, oh my fucking god, I'm like, get the fuck over yourselves. But at a certain point, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you just take the good with the bad, because I'm just super thankful that it even has that reach. You know, once you hit like say 20,000 or 30,000 views, someone's gonna come and say something mean to you. It's just the way of the universe. Mm-hmm. I remember like this year, I think like a video that went like really viral was the Black and Asian unity piece that I did with my friend Wise. And like there was so much, I don't want to say so much, but there was definitely like a percentage of people that were like angry that we were like even insisting or even implying that we should like come together. Because like, instead of that, we need to just like, and then they would just like make super racist comments about Asian people. You know, and I'm just like, wow, thanks for proving that. Like, it was just so ignorant. You know what I mean? But for me, it's like, it did way more good than it did bad in terms of like what uniting people and getting people to think and like it almost felt like when I did that piece there was so much talk around solidarity. I'm not saying that I spearheaded it, but it was like that, you know, sometimes with the universe it's like it comes in waves. So I think it was cool that I contributed to that, you know. And then the Asian American history piece, like I've gotten so many messages from people like, I've never heard any of this, or you know, it's like I've never heard even anyone rap about our history the way you did. And for me, it feels great because I've always wanted to do it, but I was just like, who's going to listen? So when people did listen and like it kind of went viral, I was just like, maybe I need to like do more of this to, you know, to give power to our community. Because I think not only is it educating, but it's also like we've done so much in the past and we have so much more to do. And the more you know about like what our ancestors have done, like the more it empowers you to want to do more. Because if all you know is like what the media portrays and tells you, it's like you're not going to have a lot of confidence in yourself.
And I've interviewed a lot of Asian Americans, Asian Canadians that grew up in very white areas and didn't really interact with many other Asian people until they were adults. And so even in schools nowadays, they don't really teach that aspect that deep about our ancestors and what brought them over. And I always encourage a lot of my clients to do called a cultural genogram, which is like a souped up family tree where you trace back kind of the roots of, immigration patterns and what, how your family came here and what their jobs were. But the main point is what values were transmitted from generations before to now, and what are sources of pride and shame. And I think it's so important to have people like you really talk about these things and say, yes, we have made contributions, to this country. We deserve to be here. I'm an American. And I think there are certain aspects of we really need people to stand up and encourage people to own that.
For sure. I think it's like the more they try and put you down, the more you should double down on your heritage. And that's kind of how I felt. I was like, okay, all right, there's so much anti-China sentiment. I'm like, when this shit opens up, I'm coming on stage with a fucking Chinese flag. Fuck you. That's how I feel. It's like, nah, I'm not gonna let you bully how I should feel about myself and my parents and my community. It's like, I think it only makes me stronger. Not to say I want to see all the xenophobic sentiment, but I think it's like, I want to teach these kids yo, don't just tuck your tail between your legs and run. It's confront it head on and be proud of who you are, because I think that scares them more than anything. Racist people don't want to see you sure of yourself and own up your heritage,
Yeah, and what I really like about Jackson Wang is that he does that. He's very much incorporating it.
I was actually talking to my friend about Jackson, because he has this Chinese hoodie, the flag, and we were I was like, dude, I want to copy it. And he was like, yo, but we should probably not do it now, because then people think we're copying him. But no, it's super cool that he reps it. He always says Jackson Wang from China. I think that's super fucking cool, because in a time now, no one wants to say that, because that comes with repercussion. People go, what about what they're doing to blah, blah, blah in China? What about just always it has nothing to do with a certain person, and they'll go on about politics, and it's this stupid yellow peril propaganda that you see. Like I said, I'm not gonna let that stop me from being proud of who I am.
And how do you respond or don't respond to haters? Because like you said, once you get to those tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hits, there's gonna be trolls, right? And so how do you handle that? How do you cope with that?
Okay, so I respond if I have a funny comeback. That's literally the only time I respond. I do it out of my own amusement. If I see, I'm just this isn't funny enough for me to respond, then I don't. But if I'm oh, he looks, and I'm oh, he looks like this person, I'm all right. Or I'm just I just view what I just see something of, it's like a battle rap instinct, instinct in me, where I'm just oh, this will be really funny, and I'm gonna do this. At that point, it's not even about them. It's just my own enjoyment. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was younger, I was so terrified of online trolls, because I'm just oh no, what if my fans see this, and it's just stupid paranoia that I think that if one person makes fun of me, the rest will follow, just in hang school, which is stupid hang-ups from high school. But now I'm just this is so natural. If you're not getting haters, you're not popping. So when I see that, I'm just I'm still living better than you.
And I know that you've been through bullying as a child, and now it is these people behind keyboards saying whatever the heck that they want, right? What would you tell kids though that are suffering from bullying through social media and things like that? It's getting nasty sometimes,
especially for Asian kids. With this whole COVID stuff. I would definitely encourage them not only to stay strong, but I also want the parents to own up responsibility too, because I think when you have foreign parents, especially when they're not like Asian American parents, I don't think they understand how serious the bullying is. Yeah. My mom told me she didn't understand it until she saw this American movie where this girl got bullied, and she's like, oh, this is what you went through. And I was like, yes.
Thanks, Mom. I was trying to tell you.
I begged her to let me go to a different school. I'm just Mom, this will save my life. I'm just so depressed here. All the kids are so mean to me. I can't handle it. And she's like, no, just ignore it. Just ignore it. And I'm not blaming my parents. Like they don't like, they didn't go through what we went through. And so I hold no type of like, resentment. But I do think now that we know better, I think we should also like, have these tough talks with our kids and be like, look, this may happen to you, but I want you to do X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Because you can't just ignore it.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, I mean, what advice do you have for Asian Americans going into the American music industry?
Well, I think the one thing I would tell them is to not think that your talent is going to be an end all be all. Like your talent is literally 10%. So if you want to be an artist, that means you also need to know how to do marketing, editing, administrative work, booking, like how to like, do publishing deals, like learn certain like legal things, maybe produce, maybe like even do your own video. Like there's so much you have to do because it's like nothing is like handed to you no more. Like back in the days, it's like, yeah, maybe you get like a label deal or development deal, they'll take care of it for you, but like that shit is gone, and especially nowadays where I can see the music industry shifting more from, oh, let's get signed to a major label and get screwed out of our money for 10 years. It's more so like, how do we not get fucked for 10 years and right. Own as much as we can and maybe partner with, a bigger entity. So I think it's getting rid of the naivete as soon as you can and then jump into business mode. That's like the best advice I can give.
Yeah, that's great. And I also tell people, because they ask me, if you were to do grad school again and do your PhD, like what would you have done? And I said, I wish they had a joint MBA, because I've had to learn how to I've always been business minded, but like I've kind of carved my own path in this business. And so I think that's a really important lesson, is that yes, you may have the talent or the skill to succeed and talk to people and, put out songs, but there's a lot that has to go into being successful, in our respective industries, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it's, again, going back to like Asian culture and like this idea of meritocracy, where we're taught that at a young age, but going into like fields like entertainment or psychology or anything that has to do with like, I guess, individuality, right? Like if you're not going to like Microsoft or like Boeing or whatever, it's knowing that your talent probably doesn't mean as much as you think it is. It's the politics, it's like the networking, it's the business skills,
And I think, you've grown your skills over time. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight. So how do you continue to make sure that you're not becoming stagnant? Do you still do like battle raps and ciphers and stuff like that?
Yeah, I definitely do ciphers. Like a lot of my best friends are like currently like battle rappers. Like, and so for one way that I like, just practice is I write a lot. Like there was like a period of time when I wrote like at least like a 16-bar verse or 20-bar verse like every day. I just because I just wanted to sharpen my tool. And I think at some point, just like you get so it becomes so second nature that like it becomes more so like, how do I expand on what I talk about? How do I like sharpen what I already have? You know what I mean? When you're done with the basics, it's more so about like let's polish the just like and just make it look sexier. that's literally what it is. Like let's add some pizzazz here and there and flair, and it's like, I'm sure it's like when you're like super good at basketball, it's like you have all the fundamentals now, and now it's like, let me just try and do like a windmill. It's like certain like assets to add to your craft.
So what do your parents think about you pursuing a music career?
They're like super supportive. And so because of that, like, I think I have very high expectations of myself, because it's like, I don't want to let them down. So I work really hard so that I can, one day take care of them, and just like, I'll be like, I want to be like the breadwinner to take care of my family.
That's awesome. So what do your fans and supporters mean to you? I mean, we talked about the haters. Let's shift to the positive. What do they mean to you?
They mean like everything to me, because I didn't even think that I would have fans like as a kid. You know what I mean? To even think about like the idea of people idolizing me and admiring me, it means a lot. And some days, I have to like kind of like take a step back and appreciate that. Because, I mean, it's not like being an artist comes with fans, you know? So the fact that I do have a following, it means everything to me. And I'm like super appreciative, and I definitely engage with them a lot, which is why I never like shy away from them. Like if you want to like hit me up, or like, you know, even in comments, I'm always like talking to my fans, because I feel like I'd rather talk to them than somebody like that doesn't like me.
Yeah. So what is your best or most memorable fan moment?
I think there's like a lot, because I definitely remember like fan meets that I've had, you know, and those are fun. I guess I can start with like the very first time that I was like, oh shit, I have fans. It was like 2015. I was booked for the show in Philadelphia, and there was like people that like, you know, came from like New York and Virginia and all these different places just to come see me. And then, you know, I had like a Q&A, and then they all like, you know, came together in a room, kind of like, you know, like KCON, like they have those like conventions, right? And those kind of moments make me feel like, wow, like people actually care what I have to say. They care about, you know, my talent, and it's really humbling, you know?
Mm-hmm. So what's next for you? Were there some new goals, new projects that you're up to?
So I'm dropping a single mid-October, a new single. It's called Kick It. And I'm definitely working on a lot of projects. So I have an EP that I'm pretty much done with. It's just I got to determine when to release it. I'm hoping COVID ends so I can like actually go out and like do, you know,
Promote.
shows and stuff for it. And I am working on like a full-length album as well. So that's like something I'm super excited for. It's like that's gonna be so comprehensive of like everything I've wanted to do. But that's gonna take some time because, you know, like COVID. But the EP is like that's pretty much almost done, knock on wood. So I'm definitely working on those projects. And right now I'm just like trying to make as many plays as I can, and as many moves as I can until COVID is over, so that when COVID does end, I can really start making moves like in person, you know, whether that's like appearances or shows, or even just meeting with certain people I need to meet out of state. So that's really the game plan, is just like hustle super hard so that when the world opens back up, I have so many avenues that I can tap into.
While COVID absolutely sucks, I think there are some benefits to kind of having some space to think and reflect, and, you know, being able to work on creative projects. Mm-hmm. So, you know, obviously I'd love to hear either a sample of your music, or if you can do something live, anything you can give us.
All right. Hopefully I remember. I should have known this was going to come up. I clean house while the game was a mess. Half angel and half angel of death. In a phantom coupe, taking out the phantom troop. Any competition, so there ain't nothing left. Racism basically forced me to this. Pathway to fame, fortune and bliss. You say you're whipping that form, but I got your girl taking pain from this forwardness whip. I need a break so bad, it's like I'm Breaking Bad. Walter White on the mic, I'm the one who knocks. Need a love that feels like Jim and Pam. If you think you're acting about it, want your thoughts. You ain't never seen an act that's promising. Jackie Chan meets Jackie Robinson. Jack of all trades, mastered all of this. As a kid, I make up what I lacked in confidence. The rap game got me upset. So if acting's where I really see them checks, and on the big screen you see me flex. In other words, I'd rather be on set than be offset. Get it? I'm living my Hollywood dreams. Money is power, so profit is king. You're talking Spotify streams. I'm focused on numbers that only the box office brings.
Thank you so much. That was so awesome. And that was just off the top of your head.
No, it's a verse. I think
still though, no rehearsal. Just thank you so much. I mean, is there any other things? How can people get in touch with you? How can your fans really truly connect with you?
Yeah. So for those of you listening or watching, you can follow me everywhere at Alan Z Music. I'm mostly on like Instagram and Twitter. So ALANZ Music. You can find all my music under Alan Z. That's ALAN space Z. And that's Spotify, Pandora, Tidal, Amazon Music, Apple Music. And also, if you're a super fan and want to support me, I have a Patreon as well. So I would definitely love to have more Patreon members.
Yeah. What can Patreon members expect or hope to get if they join it?
Yeah, so right now I have like a pretty cool like diehard like community of Patreon members. So basically you have like access to like a Patreon only group chat that I participate in. You get like exclusive behind the scenes content, unreleased tracks, the latest tracks before it drops, snippets from like shit that no one else will hear, like super rare deep cuts that I'll probably never put out. We have movie nights.
That's awesome.
We watched Train to Busan like a couple months ago or weeks, I don't remember. And then and also do like personal like shout outs and personal requests for like the VIP members and super fan members. And
That's awesome. Well, any other thoughts or messages that you want to leave with the fans today?
Just keep your head up, and hopefully I'll get to see everybody, once the world opens up.
Thanks, Alan. I am so grateful for having a meaningful conversation today on the Color Success podcast. If you're interested in learning more about our guests, becoming a guest, would like to sponsor a show, and/or learn more about my business, please visit www.drstephaniejwong.com. If you feel like doing an act of kindness, please leave a review to further spread positivity. With gratitude, Stephanie.